Good afternoon. Welcome to Hardin County Commissioners Court. We have a special, a special session today. It is Thursday, July 28th, and it's a little after 1 o'clock. All members of the court are present, constituting a quorum, and the meeting is now called to order. Everyone will please rise for the invocation. And Ms. Shirley Stevens, will you deliver?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings to us today. We thank you for this time that we can gather to discuss the needs of the county of Hardin. And Lord, we ask you to direct the decisions that are made here. We ask that it would be for your glory, your honor. We ask that you would be with our men and women in uniform, be they far abroad or be they here at home. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2017 budget.
So moved.
You're gonna believe, aren't you?
I retract that.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
didn't write it down.
I've made me some notes, and I hope I hadn't forgotten anything, but if I have, I'm sure somebody will remind me. We've had a couple of budget workshops, and we've discussed some items. Last year we went through the budget line by line. I think we spent a lot of time on it. We didn't spend quite as much time this year on it, but we didn't have a whole lot of requests for increases this year. So the way that we worked it was anybody who requested any substantial increase, we had a workshop with that department. We do have a few more departments to have workshops with, and that'll be Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and those are salary request increases. But let's just go through my notes here, and if anybody needs to interject at any time, that'll be fine, just let me know. Beginning at the front of what we've proposed here, I'm going to start off with the taxable value for the year 2016. We received the certification from the chief appraiser last week. Of course, he submitted that to Ms. Stevens, and then Ms. Stevens submitted that on to us. The amount of the valuations for the 2016 year is estimated or certified at $2,886,556,690. This is an increase of $46,736,840 in taxable value. And while there was a decrease in the mineral values again this year, and I think this is probably about 6 years running now that we've had that happen, maybe longer, there was an increase in new properties, which helped to offset and even gave a nice or a decent increase this year in the taxable values. Now, if my calculations are correct, there's also a $30,748,110 valuation that is under ARB review, which means it's under protest with the appraisal district. And Ms. Stevens, please correct me if I get any of that wrong. The chief appraiser has estimated that that amount will come to $23,520,023. Of course, we hope it'll be better, but if that's the worst case scenario, then I'm still optimistic that once the valuations are added to the certified appraisal roll, I believe that this will add enough to the county's revenue for the fiscal 17 budget that we will overcome any shortfall that we have. And we'll get to that when we go through the budget, but at this time, I think the shortfall's around $77,000. In the past, we've had to commit our surplus funds, or sometimes we refer to it as contingency, but it is a fund balance or surplus fund balance, and we've had to commit that part of that balance to the last number of budgets, at least the last one I was involved in, and the one before that I was didn't participate in, but was present to watch the process, and we did have to commit quite a bit of funds those 2 years, and we have in previous years as well. My hope is that we won't have to commit any funds from the surplus to balance our budget this year. There's been no significant increase in budgeted expenditures in the Road and Bridge Fund. You'll notice that we created some new line items for Road and Bridge departments, such as office supplies, fuel and oil, and uniforms. In the past, those have been paid out of the one main line item that you have for materials and supplies. We did not increase the budget. What we did was we took that money from materials and supplies and distributed it among those new line items. And that's just so that we can code those to the right the correct line item like we do in many of the budgets in the general fund and track those expenses. And, are there any questions about that before we proceed? I know it's not something that we've really discussed as a court. We talked, here and there about it, but I thought it's something we tried to do last year, we just didn't get it done.
My only concern on fuel and oil
Yes,
is that we budget enough, cause I know the majority of equipment expense in the past has been for fuel and oil.
And we didn't have any history really to go off of, and so we just plugged some numbers in. If y'all have some, recommendations for increase or decrease any of those numbers, or we could watch it through the budget year and make those adjustments as necessary. And then we'll have history going forward to make it a little easier to budget in the coming years.
Yeah, I think after we have one full year, see where we at on year to date, at the end of this budget, we'll know exactly what we need, because I'm sure there's gonna be, like Chris or Mr. Pelt, that will have to move monies to that line item.
Yeah, we will.
My recommendation is that we kind of do it as we go through the year. All right, so we'll move on,
One other thing,
yes,
Judge.
sir, go ahead.
Can you restate your estimated net taxable value?
It's 2,886,556,690,
Okay,
and that came from the, bottom line of this sheet here that we got from Ms. Stevens.
okay, cause what I'm showing on our sheet here from today than the one we got earlier this week
Mm-hmm.
is 2.886,323.
And the
Okay.
reason of the difference is that your certs, we had to remove the appraised value for your certs because that is, separated in the budget. So,
Okay.
this sheet that I provided, at the bottom will show what the certs values are. And then if you add those two amounts together, you'll come up to what, Judge McDaniel quoted.
Okay, so.
Alex said the $2,886,556,690 included the certs value. So I had to remove that.
So which one should we show?
For budgeted purposes, the ones that's on that sheet that I've given
This
you in
one
the
here?
past, yes, sir,
Okay, so the 2.886,323,230.
yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
I
for
suppose
budget.
the reason for breakdown like that, if I understand it correctly, is whenever we originally, started researching the certs, any new, ad
Valuation.
valorem taxes or evaluations wouldn't go into a general budget anyway, right?
Right, any increase, from the time that the areas were designated, you have to keep a watch to see if there's any increases from that point forward, and if there's any increase in the values, that taxable amount for that increase has to go in road and bridge, and it can only go, towards that project that was designated for that zone. And that's what we did, we separated that out and put that in that, and it was $1,345 tax revenue.
Yeah, and it's good for 10 years, but my understanding, the court can revisit that at any time. That's suspended. So I would say, on that, just if the legislature releases money again, we're gonna have to have it, so.
Yeah. And we won't know that until next budget
Next
year,
year.
right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments or questions on that discussion? All right, the next note that I have is, we came to a consensus as a court during our budget workshops that we would not discuss any salary increases until we received the certified values from the appraisal district. We did have a few requests for step pay increases, and I went ahead and included those in the proposal. They're not a lot of money. And, we had, we received the, certified valuation from the, chief appraiser earlier than we expected. I think it's due to us by July 25th, which was Monday, but we received it last Thursday morning. So I included those. Of course, if the court does not wish for those to stay in, we can take them out before the proposed budget is filed. Those are gonna be a, request by Road and Bridge 1 and JP2. The, increase for JP2 was the draft, it was included in the draft that I sent to everyone Tuesday night. But I failed to include the increase for Road and Bridge 1, so that is included in the proposal that we have in front of us today. And, then there was one other change made in the Road and Bridge 2 budget, just moving up, an amount of $20,000 from equipment expenses to equipment notes. So that's the only change in this, proposal we have in front of us from the proposal I sent you Tuesday night. Moving on to the general fund, we discussed salary increases for exempt personnel to meet the new DOL ruling. That's the Department of Labor ruling that came out a few months ago. I've included those increases in there, and that affects 7 exempt employees. That minimum that the Department of Labor says that they have to make in order to remain an exempt employee is $47,476. And the following personnel will be set at $47,500 to meet that, and that is Valerie Davis, Latasha Jones, Debbie Mendesabel, Teresa Wigley, and Amanda Young. Commissioner Cooper had brought up that he didn't feel like it was fair that all 7 of those people made the same when they had different duties and responsibilities and time here with the county. And I looked at that, and what I ended up doing on that is on Linda Davis, due to her time and her responsibilities, I set her at $50,000. And on Misty Sims, I think the amount that I set her at was at $48,750. Again, that can all be revisited, and we could do that Monday during that workshop, or if we want to do it today, we can do it here today. If any of that needs to be adjusted, removed, or anything like that, we can do that today. Probably one of the first things everyone will notice whenever they look at the proposed budget is a large decrease in salaries. That doesn't mean everybody got demoted or is losing their pay. They're still gonna be paid the same rate of pay as far as their hourly or biweekly pay. This doesn't affect the elected officials. We did not do the same for the elected officials that we did for all of the other employees regarding the 27th pay period in the current fiscal year. Basically, all of the employees that are in the hourly or salary range received a 27th paycheck during fiscal year 16, or will receive a total of 27 checks by the end of the fiscal year 2016. That had to be budgeted, so those salaries look higher in the 2016 budget. And then in the 2017 budget, they're corrected back to 26 payments. So that is something we really need to be sure and remind our people, is that it looks like you lost a lot of money, but you don't. You're still making the same hourly rate. The only decreases that you will see is we made a decrease in the amount for the new sheriff that comes in January to $84,095 per year. That was determined by looking at the salary survey that we received from TAC. And we matched, or tried to match that salary with the same salary that other sheriffs in counties our size with the same size budget make. And it's actually a lot lower than the $84,095. But what we decided to do, or what I decided to do after consulting with a commissioner, is we set it at my same rate of pay that I make, which is $84,095. That won't affect Sheriff Kane. He'll still make the same salary for the last 3 months of the year, which is the first 3 months of the new budget year. Then there's a few employees that came in at a lower rate than the person that they replaced, so their rate does change. But just trying to explain the difference in payroll there from last year to this year.
Judge, I think
Yes,
it would be, and I might jump the gun here, but I think it would be important to bring out too, on the proposal that you have here for the new sheriff coming in, the reason why that salary is not as high as what he will actually make is because he will come in January, and we will already be 3 months into that budget, so that's the reason why that number is not.
Right, it's 2 line items. There's 1 line item for Sheriff Kane and then a new line item for the new sheriff.
All right.
But the annual pay would be $84,095 starting in fiscal year 17. And then the only other item I needed to make sure and call to everyone's attention is we did not include the budget for the new annex building project in this proposal. It will be included when we file the budget on Friday, and it won't be any change from what we all approved in court a few weeks ago when we set that budget. But we do have to figure out exactly how to, that's actual dollars, that's not budget money, that's actual dollars from certificates of insurance. And we've got to figure out how to make sure that that rolls forward. And I was gonna ask Commissioner Cooper if he had any idea on this, but I didn't think that we would probably spend any more than $100,000 in this budget year. And so maybe we budget for the remainder of that, the 1.8 into the next year.
As far as an exact number, I would agree with what you just said. I don't really know as far as an exact number, but I do know this. The longest period of time is gonna be interior. And as far as how much we have dedicated to that, I don't know, but coming out of the ground and dirt work and all that should go pretty fast. So I would say by the first of the year, they should be getting close to doing interior. I'm not.
You say the 1st of January?
Yes, sir.
And we just have 2 months left in this budget year. I just didn't think we'd spend more than $100,000
I wouldn't
in
think
this
so.
budget year. Okay, so you agree?
What's a good guess, and if we don't, if we do,
We can modify it.
we'll amend the budget.
Yes, sir. So before we went forward with that, we wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. One other item I want to bring up, because it's already been brought up to me, we'll have a new tax assessor collector as well, and we did visit that salary, just like we did with the sheriff's salary, and that pay is in line with what the other counties make. One of the counties that I recall that we looked at was Bastrop County. They have nearly the same population and the same amount of budget that Hardin County has, nearly about 20 million. So it's not like we weren't trying to pick on anyone. We did visit all of that, and we'll continue to do that as new officials are replaced. So, with that being said, does anyone have any comments on the court?
Judge, I'd like to commend you and everyone who work on all the committees, and Angela for working so hard and put in some late night hours. And I just appreciate it.
Second that.
Thank you. Candace and Angela did a lot of the work.
I would like to reference Candace in this. She did a lot of work on this.
Thank
A
you
lot of
for all
late
your
hours
work.
as well. She did a great job.
Candace is very strong-headed. I learned that the last week or so.
Wonder where they get that from.
I don't know.
David, is your motion still good?
A judge.
You corrected it.
I will.
Just a minute, there is one item. What
Cell
is-
phones.
Yes, there was two line items on cell phones. On the sheriff's budget, he had reduced the cell phone, and I also want to call that out as well. I don't remember the exact amount, maybe Angela can remind me. But the sheriff and Chief Davis and Commissioner Cooper and I met one day last week, and after that meeting, the sheriff submitted a new budget request. I don't remember if I gave everybody a copy, but I believe his initial budget request was a reduction of around 25,000 from his operations, and his new budget request that he submitted to us last week, if I'm not mistaken, was around 85,000 in reductions. Does that sound right? Okay. Now, we do still have to talk to the sheriff on Monday about, he's got some salary increases that he's requesting, and we'll discuss that on Monday, but this budget does not reflect any salary increases other than the certificate and longevity pay that's automatic each year for his budget. Those are reflected in here. We'll discuss the other requests that he has on Monday. All right, so the cell phone line item in his budget, in his new budget that he submitted last week, included an amount of $3,600, and I reduced it to $2,400. And then in the floodplain budget, it had a line for telephone, and they were paying for 2 telephones to Verizon that I had disconnected last week, and agreed to pay Amanda a $50 a month cell phone allowance to use her personal cell phone. We were paying, I believe, around $75 a month for each phone that was assigned to that department. And I believe Juvenile had helped us out with some phones or something like that. I'm not real sure on that, but I've had them turned off, so we quit paying that and included in the budget to pay her a cell phone allowance. Is there anything else I missed?
You won't let anybody in the audience?
I am after I hear if y'all have any comments.
That's
Mr. Pell?
I'm just ready to
Robert?
second this motion.
Okay. Anything? Does anybody in the audience have any concerns, comments, questions, or anything like that? Candace? You sure?
She's finally quiet. I do have a question though,
Yes, ma'am.
and it may be stepping, but you may be considering this. How are we going to handle the $76,841 to balance this budget? Are we going to do it from our fund balance, or are you going to raise the taxable revenue to foresee collecting that additional amount that's in protest?
Well, that's the next item to talk about is to set the tax rate. And my recommendation on that is that we leave the tax rate where it's at now, at the 0.5762. And again, I'm very optimistic that once the values under protest are lined out, that we should be okay. But of course, if we're not, then we would have to go into the fund balance to balance the budget. And plus, we still have some requests out there that are outstanding that we don't know if they'll go in the budget or not. But they won't be in the proposed budget.
Right, and so for this proposed budget that we're gonna file tomorrow, we need to know, are we taking it from the fund balance, or are we increasing our taxable
I say
revenue?
we just take it from Road and Bridges carryover. Road and Bridge 1, I'm sorry.
We'll give you an opinion when we get to that item.
Yes, sir.
Well-
I would say from the fund balance is where we would need to take that for the proposed budget. anyone in the audience have any comments? Daniel? Okay, are you tweeting? Okay. I usually don't get to see them till at night when I get home.
I move that we adopt the proposed fiscal year 2017 budget as presented by Judge McDaniel.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cooper and a second by Commissioner Pelt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And that does include that we'll use the 77,000 from the fund balance?
Yes.
Okay. And then item number 5 is discussion and possible action to set the proposed tax rate for the year 2016. We have the worksheet that Angela presented us with the current tax rate, then the effective tax rate being .5714. Then we would need nearly 215,000 to balance the budget. Or if for some reason if we decided to increase the tax rate to and round it up to .58, we would have a surplus of 32,000.
I wish we would consider 58.
Well, we can.
And that would be my, we've operated very, very close the last 2 years, and I'd like to see a little breathing room, and it's not that much higher than what we're doing, but if we're gonna leave it at 5762, then my opinion is go ahead and move it to 58.
I'd like to hear from all the commissioners on that.
I would not, today I'm not gonna vote for that. I'm gonna vote for 5762, but I would not be opposed to that if we got Monday into discussion to where we couldn't be at that point when we do more cuts in regards to salaries or anything else. And I'm not,
Yeah, no, I'm with
I
you.
wouldn't be opposed to 58 at all, but today I would say leave it at what it is, 5762. That's just my opinion.
My vote would be for leaving it 5762 until we see further evidence that would change my mind.
Ditto, same thing. I
I
think
gotta
that,
start with you next time. I gotta start with you next time.
I like being last. No, I agree. I agree that we need to see where everything's gonna be and, if need be, but right now, 5762 is where I wanna be.
Okay. Would you like to make that a motion?
I make a motion, we keep it at 5762 for the present.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Roberts and a second by Commissioner Pelt. Any discussion? I appreciate everybody voicing their opinion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I did forget to ask if y'all had any comments on the tax rate. I just figured since you didn't on the budget, that was, okay.
Anybody like to make a donation toward the budget?
Move adjourned.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pelt and a second by Commissioner Kirkendall to adjourn. We're adjourned.
Have a good trip.
Yes, sir.
Won't take you, what, 3 hours?
Thank you all.
Get to
Yeah.
Henderson?
How much is the difference?
To the 580, that's what this does, shows you. It's 580 here,
Okay, I didn't look,
and
I'm sorry.
you'll generate that much more in taxable revenue. And so your expenditure, your revenue would be higher than your expenditures by this amount. And so this much, you either
Yeah.
increase your expenditures or it will go into fund balance.
So it was close.
Yeah.
5762, this is what it is. That's what the
Shouldn't be a
proposed
lot,
budget's
like-
based on. And if we went to the effective tax rate,
Yes, sir.
you would have to use that. You would have to have that to balance your
This time of year we do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go hear, one of my friends is preaching this weekend, so I'm gonna go hear.
I know, me too. I'm at risk. I can't even get my words out, I'm so cold.
Then I'm gonna go early Sunday.
I think it feels great in here, I've been out working.
Oh, well, yeah, I bet it does to you, but
BBS, I'm gonna baptize him Sunday
my
morning.
winter
I'm gonna
clothes.
drive back in for that, so.
One thing I did fail to say is I was hoping this was gonna be the final, but real close to it.
Yeah.
The final meeting.
Final budget.
Final meeting, yeah, but no, we'll have some more meetings. I hope this is about, real close to the final budget.
I hope it's close to the end of the meeting then.
Yes, sir, me too. I figure we'll have one more workshop and that'll be it, then we'll have to start having public hearings.
So on the proposed rate, is that not gonna change? Are we not gonna consider 58? Or
On
or
the
would we
proposed
consider
budget, but now
Monday?
after that, we can consider going up for the final budget.
58 will put us in the plus, which I don't disagree with that at all.
Well, here's the thing I'm thinking, all right, if you go 58, and we'll do a really good job managing like we've been doing, next year we can go back to 3%. That's kind of what my thinking is,
Yeah.
because you're gonna probably
Diane.
have,
We're already
gonna have to have a public I'm sorry, I didn't make you mean to make you crash it.
that's
Did,
what I thought.
did you find out they moved it? That's what I was told, they moved it.
You know, so.
I do.
I can't believe I
It
said
should be over there by the soccer field somewhere.
I'm glad you did.
They came in and they
It's
moved
good.
it. They took it out, they removed the line that was out there across the parking lot.
Yeah.
They removed that line, I know, Carl said they did.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Well,
I'm
it-
gone.
it's acro-
If you
it
need
crosses
anything,
the
come
road.
by and see Debbie, and then I
Right.
gotta see
So,
floodplain.
Right.
I'm on the road.
I have to go out there